Hello, queens out there. This is Two Queers in a Truck. Our first show of the 2022. We got a lot to cover in a short period of time. We're trying to keep these to 30-minute formats. So we're going to have a rotation of topics, and we're going to try to keep it to 6 minutes. So I will start the timer as we start the first subject. Of course, I'm Jenny Gunn with my show partner, Christian Cano.
Hey!
And, we're going to introduce a whole new queerness. How you doing, Christian? Long time no see.
I hadn't seen you in such a long time.
That's been 2 minutes. At least
It's almost been like 4 minutes. Yeah, exactly.
Happy
Happy 2022. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, girl.
Us and all of our loyal followers, all three of you. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Obviously, most of y'all probably watched this after we put this on the air. Not many people watch it live, especially since we pre-record them now. But our first subject is I like to call Family Feud. So in the news today on the Twitterscape, or at least for one of them, Ben Crenshaw from Texas, or Dan Crenshaw in Texas District Number 2, tweeted about Marjorie Taylor Greene and says that one of the reasons that she's supporting anti-censure legislation is that she wants to remain the victim. He says that she doesn't care about solutions and she doesn't care if you get censored. She just wants to keep the victim so she can keep asking you for donations. Yeah, it's a scam. And so realize that Dan Crenshaw from Texas is a Republican.
I saw that.
A fairly out
I didn't
there
see that
Republican.
tweet. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's in response to her bitching about her getting banned from Twitter because she got her fifth and her final, basically the death penalty for a Twitter account because she's been, doing vaccine misinformation and misinformation, COVID information. But I kind of want to know your take because we've talked about Dan Crenshaw before on the show. He's the guy that has a little patch eye. And, it's done some pretty out there stuff himself. But it's been kind of quiet lately. How can you be heard over Green and Robert, all those people? Yeah. But he's taken on one of their darlings of their party, and their version of AOC, I guess. More or less. So, what do you think about his take that she's basically a scam?
I think your prediction in 2019. Or I think you said something. You said that the only people who can beat Republicans are other Republicans. And I think what you're seeing is within their own party, they're tired of these clowns. And they are starting, I know here in North Carolina, for an example, they're tired of Madison Cawthorn. All the big wigs are starting to come out against Madison Cawthorn and calling it, they got even Republican PACs are doing opposition research to really smear him and so forth. And so I do think that they are just tired of her obnoxious, but for me, it's night. What do you use the word delicious? It's delicious for me to watch because I'm like, we talk about this all the time. Marjorie Taylor Greene, we've always said this, Marjorie Trailer Trash Greene is the trailer trash drunk girl at the bar that is loud and obnoxious. And finally, when someone gets fed up with her, we all go, oh, thank goodness someone finally, because we just tolerate it. We're like, she's obnoxious,
Well, and because we weren't the ones that invited her,
Exactly.
The people that invited her are basically her kind of her date or her friend group. You kind of want to look at them and go, could you do something about her? Come on. And I think because Crenshaw, for one, is pretty loud himself, and two, is not afraid to say something because people in Texas aren't going to care if he takes her on, so it's not going to affect his reelectability, and it puts him back in the news cycle a little bit. That he's taking on some of the crazier people in his party, and so I think it's a good move for him, and it also puts Republicans in this weird deal because they've got this group of Republicans, this class of group, the Bobberts, the Greens,
I call them the trash squad.
Cawthorns. Yeah, the trash squad.
Yeah.
That is basically, the people that you don't want invited to the party, but somehow they find out and they show up anyway.
Exactly.
And you go, oh no, you're supposed to give them the wrong address or the wrong start time or whatever. Or like it's supposed to give tomorrow as the date. And then when they show up, there's no party. But it's really, they're just really like these freaks and geeks that are so unelectable.
Yep.
But because their behavior is so outrageous and so trashy, people go, oh, let's vote for them. What the heck,
Yeah,
But
I don't think people realize. I hope that what happens. I know we've talked about this before. I don't know how much time we have left, but I hope we've talked about this before. The same people who wanted to elect a businessman, a billionaire, the same people who want to elect people who speak their mind. I hope this ruins it, and at least we go another generation of going, God, I never want to make that same mistake again. I don't think it will, but I hope that.
And I think just like when what's his face in 1992 got some traction, the little guy,
Ross Perot
got a little bit of traction, and then of course he outed himself as being an absolute kook, and just flamed out. And then so we kind of said, okay, well that type of guy we don't really want in politics, and then we kind of went back to our tried and true, vetted, legit, long-term, vested politicians.
What did Jeff Scott and Stephen used to say? The duopoly.
Yeah, the duopoly. And honestly, because Ross Perot could have easily run as Republican. You just had a sitting Republican president that he was really wanting to run against anyway, and because he really appealed to a moderate to conservative voter, somebody that wanted a good sense president, a practical president, is what Ross Perot pitched himself to. Of course, without all the conspiracy theories, the kookery, and nominating a vice president that was a former general that could that had a drool cup next to him, and people were like, "Oh, he's one gunshot away from being president."
I had completely forgot about that.
Oh gosh, Saturday Night Live crucified that poor general. I can't remember his name, but he was just like, I remember because it was like Gore, and of course, Alphabet Dan, and with the whole Murphy Brown scandal and how he couldn't spell tomato or tomato or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you had this Dan Quayle, and then a former general. I can't remember that guy's name for the life of me, but he was up there, and of course his better years were way behind him. The guy
Saturday Night Live used to do skits on him like,
because he literally was just like looking around trying to catch butterflies. Like
that's right.
Like he had somebody was supposed to have been watching him. Took their eye off him for a second. He wandered up and ran for vice president. And but it was great. It was a great part of American history. So the next subject is, of course, what I like to call fake news. We have over 1 million new cases of COVID today, a world record. Omicron is spreading faster than one of Trump's former wives, and we definitely, it is what it is. Of course, Omicron is upon us. It's if it isn't the dominant strain, it's pretty close to it. They estimate it's anywhere from 40 to low 50 percentile of all the COVID cases. Of course, we still have Delta, we still have probably Beta, and and so on and so forth. There's no telling what it's out there. And so the good news is that it seems to be a little less deadly, especially if you're vaccinated.
Yeah, for vaccinated people. Yeah.
So far, the data, more people are going to get it, but as a percentage on the vaccinated side, less people are going to die that are vaccinated now.
Yeah.
The death rate amongst unvaccinated is not much different.
Yeah.
Even though the population of unvaccinated people is so much smaller than it was a year ago.
Sure.
We can still see the same amounts of deaths that we saw last year
with unvaccinated. Yeah.
because it's spreading so fast. You know, it's
Yeah.
going to get COVID as many more at bats. It's 500% more contagious, even though it is only about a third as deadly. But
Sure.
because it's so much more contagious, so many more people are going to get it. We had over 1 million people test positive today. Some of that could be attributed to we're doing a better job of testing than we were a year ago. Because we had many people, many states, many governors fighting testing, and now they can't because they're sending tests directly to people's homes.
Yeah.
So there's so much more accessibility. What's your take on the proliferation of obviously positive cases? And I kind of want to know your thoughts about the federal government mailing out testing kits directly to people's homes. You know, what do you see as positive?
Yeah, I guess I really don't have a view on that. I mean, I guess in any opportunity for someone to find out whether they're contagious or not, I think will help. Maybe it'll cause them to think a little bit more before they go and maybe expose other people. Is that going to happen? Probably not. That's like saying all guys are going to wear condoms. I mean, the reality is people think they're never going to be the one that's going to do this or do whatever. So I do think that you need all the tools in the toolbox to help stop this. But when you talk about the unvaccinated people, I think we have kind of, at least I have come to the conclusion, 2021, it was real hard for me to do it. I still have less and less and less guilt, and I probably have no guilt after 2022. If you are not vaccinated and you go to the hospital, thoughts and prayers. It's just like, I don't want to sound like a uncaring person, but I actually don't care. If you don't care about exposing other people to something that could possibly harm them, then I don't care what happens. And we know people who have passed away. Yeah.
And logic would dictate if you opt out of a system.
Exactly.
Don't ask for help. Like
exactly. Yeah.
If you don't want to, the medical community came up with a solution to make COVID less deadly.
Yeah.
And the long-term goal of containing it. If you opt out of that, then you should opt out completely of the medical system. You shouldn't go to an orthodontist. You shouldn't shouldn't be allowed in a medical. It should be a crime. If you walk into a medical facility knowing that you're unvaccinated, you should be arrested on the spot. Yeah. And you should have to sign a waiver saying, I truly believe the federal government should go door to door and say, you either sign this waiver or you get vaccinated.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And go.
Yeah, that's a little bit more extreme than I think.
But you opt out. You just say, okay, because you shouldn't put a burden on our system in any way by either being potentially deadly or contagious.
I agree.
And we have this airborne pathogen, and if you opt out, you opt out. It's no harm, no foul, but don't walk into any kind of medical facility whatsoever. Once you opt out, you're out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be that more. I know I wouldn't go that far extreme, but I understand what you're saying.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think, anyway, yeah, I agree. I mean, I really, I've heard what you said on our other show about people who are unvaccinated. I do think that hospitals need to start taking a look at, what? I mean, I know they have to treat everyone.
No, they don't.
Well,
no, you don't. Yeah. They can turn away people.
I think it's time to stop turning. Then that makes us, I don't know.
And certain states certain markets have said, if you're unvaccinated, don't come to our hospital.
Yeah.
And certain countries are doing it now. I know certain parts of Germany are now having to do that because, quite frankly, our hospitals would be fine if unvaccinated
Jenny,
weren't going to them.
My mind agrees with you 100%,
right.
But my heart, it's hard for my heart to want to see, even though the person could be an idiot and a moron and a denier and whatever, there's a part of my heart that still wants to care about him.
Well,
and that may be why I would be,
But here's my
So,
counter to this.
sure. Okay.
So we both have elderly relatives. Our
Yes.
parents are on up there in age.
Yes. Yes.
Let's say they have a non-COVID emergency, heart attack,
Yeah.
stroke, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
With the hospitals currently so full with
Mhm.
vax holes that refuse to get vaccinated, and now want to depend on that same medical system that they
Sure.
refuse to listen to, and one of our loved ones that's older
Sure.
that has a medical emergency and medical
You
emergency,
couldn't get it. Yeah.
but also too that there's a certain amount, there's a finite amount of employees, there's a finite amount of
Mhm.
beds, there's a finite amount of resources,
Sure.
and once the inn is full,
Hmm.
then what?
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
also think about this: if you're working critical care and they're
Mhm.
moving resources around and all that, that kind of strain also leads to mistakes,
Sure.
leads to misdiagnoses, because our resources can only go so far.
Yeah. No,
And
I agree with you. Yep.
and when you get 1 million new cases, let's say only 5% of them result in immediate hospitalization.
That's still a lot. Yep.
That's still 50,000 people
Yeah.
a day that
Mhm.
needed to go to an emergency room or a hospital today
Sure.
alone.
Yeah.
50,000. We only have 790,000 hospital beds
Mhm.
in our whole hospital system in all 50 states.
Yep.
And that's just 5% of that 1 million people that got diagnosed today with COVID. If
Mhm.
only 5% of them need emergency care in any kind of care facility, that's 50,000 new bodies going into a
Mhm.
hospital. If just 5%, which the percentages are way higher, but
Sure.
let's say 5%. We've asked our medical facilities for 2 years to run basically with the gas press down,
Mhm. Yeah.
24 hours a day, 365 days a year for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
At what point do we not sustain that? So,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
a good point.
I think for all of us
Mhm.
that are vaxxed that have half of a brain,
Mhm.
we've got to start thinking maybe we need to opt them out of society.
Sure.
The next subject is switching to a more lighthearted one. Where is Waldo and where is Governor DeSantis? So
Oh
during the
yeah, yeah,
holiday,
that's been crazy.
he
Yeah,
has literally
that's
disappeared. All of his family photos have been from the same photo session, wearing the exact
Mhm.
same clothes for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So in his press releases over the last 6 weeks on Twitter and on the other
Wow.
social medias for the governor, official
Yeah.
government side, it's the exact same photo session. Like they have different poses, like the same
So
different
do you
poses.
think do you think he's suffering from COVID?
We don't know. And so the
Yeah.
Twitterscape today and this whole week since
Sure.
it really got noticed at Christmas time. They go, a lot of people, of course, there's always people on
Yeah.
Twitter that are watching. And DeSantis is a very high profile governor.
Sure.
They noticed that his Thanksgiving and his Christmas pics, they were wearing the exact same outfits,
Oh,
different
Yeah.
poses, but the
Yeah.
same area of his house,
Sure.
somewhere in
Yeah.
the governor's mansion.
Mhm.
And then what really got stuff cranked up is on New Year's Eve, they released another set of family photos, exact same outfits. So obviously all the pictures were taken at the same time, probably sometime in November.
Or
some
they
kind of
just like to
photo
wear the same
shoot.
clothes.
Doubtful, but there is that possibility too. That would be pretty
Yeah.
amazing that all the kids, because he has 2 or 3 young children,
Yeah.
it's a real cute little family.
Mhm.
And the fact that they have the exact same outfits for 3 sets of holiday photos, and it leads a lot of people to say, "Where is Governor DeSantis? Where is this?"
Well,
And it's asked a lot of questions, and there's not been a response. There's no official response to those questions.
what I know that his media people have been trying to deflect things, and by saying that he was at a cancer treatment with his wife, which is maybe 1 day, 4 hours. So they try to use the cancer thing to kind of drum up sympathy. And so I think what I've found when I started reading about this, because it's been like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, he hasn't made a public appearance. And more importantly, Florida is going through an outrageous number of cases of COVID, and he's not making any statements about it, what they're doing, and whatever the case is. And so I do think that there are people who have had family members who have been ill and they still show up to work.
Yeah.
And and not only do they show up to work, they have to show up to work. So if he's trying, and if they're trying to say, well, he can't, he's got to focus on his family, well, then resign as governor. Spend time with your family. But the state needs a leader. Yeah. And I think it also has all those people who actually have family members they take care of that have to work. It shows how out of touch he is, I think, with working class people. So I think he's screwed.
and I think a lot of people, look at politics almost like a celebrity status when really,
yeah,
they do have a function. So
they do have a job,
campaigning and entertaining at the soundbite. They actually have a job. Like you, like you say this, and it's very brilliant. Mm-hmm. One of the few smart things you say. That was shade.
But that's the first shade of 2022.
I know the first shot's been fired.
That's right.
When you run for office, you're applying for a job. Yeah. You are applying for a job, and the constituents are your employers, and it is so true, and it hits home. I think a lot of people see them politicians as leaders. They're not really leaders. They're supposed to follow our lead and represent.
Exactly. Yes.
And they're supposed to listen to us and report to us. Mm-hmm. And if we decide that they didn't do a good job, like in 2020 when we fired Trump, we ask them to leave, and they're supposed to leave. That's how democracy works.
Exactly.
And if Governor DeSantis cannot function, if he is AWOL, then I mean, as bad as that sounds, go find a different job.
Lieutenant Governor run.
Yeah, I mean, step down and do the right thing. And we always hear about the party of Jesus and football and patriotism,
family values,
hard working individuals that we're the takers and they're the makers.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
But it always seems like they're always the ones taking, and they're always the ones.
Hey, Jenny, don't you think every time we hear about something like this? Every time there's something that's really there's something that we're gonna go. I knew whether he's caught in an affair, whether there's something going on, whether he actually has COVID and don't want people to know there's something. There's always something. Always, especially for Republican, always something.
That was something I was going to say too. I completely agree with you. Whether there's smoke, there's fire. Always. And I'm telling you, anytime Republicans, especially Republican celebrity governors, we saw this with Schwarzenegger and the whole nanny game.
The South Carolina governor.
We've seen it with the South Carolina governor. We saw this with so many other, Congress people and governors and presidents, especially with Republicans. Yeah. Is that right before something big breaks? Yeah. They do a little, their profile goes down just a little bit. And they get a little quieter. Yes. We haven't seen Death DeSantis going off about fake news and stuff like that for a while. And it makes you wonder what's really going on.
Exactly.
So the next subject is, we don't like diversity, and we don't like coloring out the lines, and we don't need any more colored people. So there's a reason why I'm saying this. There is a University of Pennsylvania law professor named Amy Wax that insisted that she is not racist, despite praising the superiority of European culture. And now she argues that we need fewer Asians and less diversity, especially amongst Democrats and Democrats supporting diversity. But we basically need less people of color in this country, especially ones making decisions. And that how much superior European white culture is, but this is a law professor from the University of Pennsylvania. We're talking about a major top 50 university, a big university. Yeah. She's a law professor named Amy Wax, Professor Wax.
Amy. Okay.
W-A-X. And so she is, to quote her, maybe it's just the Democrats love open borders and they love Asians here. and perhaps maybe some distant element, they're mesmerized by the cult of diversity. I don't know the answer, but as long as most Asians support Democrats and help to advance their positions, I think the United States is better off with fewer Asians and less Asian immigration. And she's gone on to other rants before this about European superiority and how we don't really need diversity, and the diversity is overrated. As a person of color, I mean, and this was said in 2021. I mean, this is not, this wasn't said in like 1955. And it was quoted on Twitter on January 2nd. So just a few days.
So what's going? I mean, what's happening with her? I mean, I've this is the first time I've heard of this, and I just looked her up.
So this broke in the news,
and she is not a attractive person.
No,
not that makes any difference, but it seems like there's a lot of inner anger in her. So
so
anyway, so tell me,
the ugliness on the inside is boiling out at the top.
Exactly,
I guess.
That's what it seems. So what's I mean, is there any backlash to that, or what's going on?
Oh, absolutely.
That's crazy. That's just crazy. Yeah.
There's several people, including this guy that I'm quoting, a reporter. I think he's a reporter. A political columnist, and he works for The Guardian right now. He's based out of New Orleans. His name is Nathan J. Robinson, and he broke the story about how she was talking about diversity being overrated and how I guess we need less Asians because the Asians are siding with the Democrats and all this. And when I think about this, I think about that one football player. He was a black player. He played for Green Bay, Reggie White.
Yeah.
And remember, I think it was just after he retired, or it was at the end of his career, or right after he retired, he did this one commencement speech, and he went on to say, well, Mexicans are good at bricklaying, and and all these real racist epithets and stereotypes and all that. And it just almost feel like she's in that same vein, that she just made this generalization that all Asians are Democrats and that they're all helping this woke culture, diversity, and celebrating diversity just to celebrate diversity.
Sure.
Yeah, I can't help think that this whole continent was settled by people of color before white Europeans stumbled onto this continent drunkenly on rum or whatever. And said, oh, hey, we discovered this. And even though indigenous people have been living here for 10, 12,000 years, and I can never know what this feels like. But when I hear somebody say something like that about any group of color, whether it's Asian people, Latinx, Black Americans, whomever, but I wonder, would you hear that as a person of color, as a Latinx American?
Yeah.
What is that? What is your initial feeling when you hear something like that? I'm just always curious.
My initial feeling is always just I don't want to say anger, because I have learned to and you probably understand where I'm coming from on this area. As a gay male, you learn, or as a person who's marginalized in any group, you learn how to deflect anger into humor, and because if it'll consume you. And you said something, I think at last week's show, you said, I'm not going to give them the privilege of, I forgot the term you said,
of controlling
we talked about
my emotions. Yeah,
exactly.
They're not important enough to to make me angry.
Yes.
They really are.
Yeah. And so when I look at this person, and I look, I'm kind of reading kind of along when you are, and so forth. She's a second generation. She's an immigrant from Eastern Europe. She looks like I don't know. I mean, I don't know who this person is, but I just go.
Well, we talk about white supremacy a lot on this show. because it's such a running American theme. Like,
Sure.
it's been in existence as long as our country's,
Yeah.
air quotes, our country's been in existence even before we became independent from England. But this whole theme of this European smugness, this European that we can just do whatever we want. We can do the manifest destiny. We can just push west, even though there was dozens of nations already here. There was people already here. Just screw it, get out of our way, kind of attitude. And it's unreal.
But Jenny, and I'm not too. Aren't Eastern Europeans considered like the Mexicans of Europe?
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's.
Not to put on too point of a deal. So the high wealth nations of Western Europe, a lot of times make fun of the Polish, and because you got the Polak jokes, because the Eastern Europe tends to be more conservative, tends to be more religious. They're kind of like our River Tucky states. Got like Russia that's got lots of resources and it's real big, but it's still really broke for such a large nation. It's always struggling with money. It's always screwing up. It's that kid that you always thought was going to be successful, but never does. It's like a phase in the launch. Like Russia implodes every so often. I mean, and so Eastern Europe is just riddled with. I mean, they're like the Ozarks. It's like countries like Georgia and Ukraine and stuff like that. Those are Europe's Kentuckys and hillbillies, and so
maybe that's in a way that I have learned to because I know the clock is ticking on these individuals.
Right.
That I just that
monumental breeding in the Latinx community versus the raw stupidity and short noses of white people. Something's going to collide eventually. I mean, I'm smart. I've befriended people of color so that I know when y'all take over, you won't shoot me. Kidding. But it's just so bizarre how. And the only way I can relate to it is being gender diverse, being gender queer. People obviously can tell that I'm not a vanilla, cis straight person. Like when you meet me, it's like something's a little different. And from that point of view, is the only way I can identify with what a person of color goes through, because right away they know I'm not straight or cis. Like it's super. So I get these weird reactions, just like you get the the weird, like, where are you from? And they look right past me, and I'm a second generation American, and I'm like, well, his family's been here since 1820s, and mine just came off the boat, literally, like my grandmother had a green card, like I'm the one that you should be asking, but because I'm white, you're not going to ask me that. When you should be more worried about me. And pushing
but you know what, Jenny? It's almost like this happened to me like 2 days ago. It was Sunday. Sunday, I went to watch the Cowboy game because it was blocked out here, and it was the Panthers run, so I had to go watch it. So I'm sitting at the corner at the lodge, and these brown, they're kind of obnoxious. I know who they are. They were Browns fans, but they didn't have the jersey. They yell, "Cowboys suck!" It's like,
well, it's
Cleveland. It's
just so Cleveland's like a River Tucky state. Like Cleveland's Cleveland's.
I almost wanted to say, but
you just want to look, and even if the Cowboys do suck, you still want to look at Cleveland and go, well, I've been to Dallas. I've been to Cleveland too, and I'm going to tell you something. You couldn't pay me enough to visit Cleveland.
Well, it's just that's kind of how I have to. I'm not trying to be like an elitist or anything like that, but I do think.
Okay.
Well,
it's okay. You are a snob. It's okay. you're a gay male snob. It's okay. You are an elitist.
But I do think that sometimes, especially when you have this kind of stuff, that we do have to teach our young kids who live in marginalized communities to have, and I think we've done a really good job. We have to teach them to have pride in who they are and to not let those, that crazy sticks and stones will break my boat, but words will never hurt me. We have to teach them that, because the world is not nice. And you have to learn that. And we need allies to back us up. Luckily, there was a guy that was sitting next to me. He said, "This is stupid," And so that's what we need. If I didn't have that, I probably would have I'm not a confrontational person, but I'm just saying is that luckily we have people that we befriend that have our backs and stuff like
You're
that.
not confrontational?
Well, not like, I'm not going to go around, like that. I'm not like physical or anything, but I probably
I've seen you get slapped in the lodge before. In all fairness, though, you did step in. So we were going there on the way back from a birthday party, and I was wearing one of my very eccentric outfits, and I was in this pretty wild looking vinyl looking cat suit, and a very drunken Marjorie Taylor Greene wannabe rolled up on me, and Chris, you can only understand about every other word from this chick. It was pretty late. It was in or around midnight, and nothing good ever happens at midnight. And or as my grandmother would say, the only two things open at midnight are legs and ERs. And so, but anyway, this drunken woman was looking at my really cute, sexy outfit, and she's going, "Well, you're nothing special. Anybody could wear that." And I proceeded to tell her where you could buy it from. I said, I got it off a website called Dolls Kill, and they sell a lot of outfits like this. So no, it's not a special. It wasn't specially made for me. Thank you for pointing that out. And then, of course, Christian overheard it. And of course, jumped in and said, "You just need to leave her alone. That's my friend, blah, blah, blah." And then she decided to go ahead and slap him across the face for the trouble. And then, of course, she got escorted out by the bar management fairly quickly after that. But yeah,
that was crazy.
Christian can get confrontational when he needs to.
I don't like that.
So,
that's right.
But it was a noble thing to do. He did take the slap from me, because she probably would have slapped me if she kept going, because I was actually pretty close to getting tired of this annoying. She was kind of like a fly. So you don't really want to swat the fly. I don't really want to pick on something that isn't my own size. I am vegan, so I don't really like to kill animals, including bugs. But I was getting to the point where I was about to break out the fly swatter when Christian jumped in, and then, of course, took the blow to the face instead of me. But anyway, our next subject is, and it'll be our last topic of the night. Liz Cheney's in the news. Liz Cheney, quoted by a news source on Twitter called rawstory.com. Liz Cheney is willing to lose because the single most important thing is stopping the Trump's next presidency. And so Liz Cheney, a Republican, I believe she's from Wyoming or Montana. I can never remember where her district is, but it's one of the great sky states, has single-handedly basically been the counter talking point to all the insurrection stuff and all that. And she's not backing down. And so a lot of Republicans are giving her heat. She's catching a lot of heat in the news, almost like she's grandstanding. But Cheney's also from a famous Republican family. And it's interesting that she is willing to, because the Cheney family's not always been the best people. I mean, Dick Cheney, the evil emperor, and all of his chicanery. So I don't know if she's actually trying to make up for everything he did by actually holding the Republican Party accountable.
Yeah.
But she's willing to prosecute other Republicans, and as stated, including this week, we're going to proceed with prosecutions. We're going to use the power of the Congress.
Yeah,
to
they're subpoenaing
sitting staff members, Congress people. We're going to compel everybody involved, including they said they're going to subpoena Hannity from Fox News today. That just broke out.
Oh, wow.
What? So they're going to subpoena probably some more people from Fox. What is your thoughts? Because we're kind of in the media. We're kind of a news kind of funny trash can show. What do you think about them subpoenaing people like Hannity when we're talking about the January 6th things? You know, do you think they should be able to? What do you think about Hannity having to take the stand and talk about stuff that he was involved with?
I think what comes around goes around, and karma. And I think the same people who like Trump because he sues everybody and he's so litigious, that's just how he is. He's been that way his whole life. I think Congress should do the exact same thing to them. And I think what comes around goes around. So the one thing that I do like Republicans, I appreciate, is they teach us a lot of strategies that we can use against them.
Yeah.
And you know, because we're just so polite, we would think, yeah, I'm never going to sue. You know, why would you do?
Yeah.
You know what? And that's why I think, to your point earlier about these people like the xenophobic anti-Asian professor, that person, and all those Margie Taylor Greens and all that kind of stuff, they know, and they sit around and talk to Billy Bob and the people they talk to. They know their day, the clock is ticking. They know, and I'm just saying this only because from Mexican heritage, those Mexicans are going to take over and this. And I think we have to stop apologizing and start saying, yes, and we're going to treat you exactly the way you treated us.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be nicer, but still.
Sure. Well, progressive people tend to be, you know, we just want progress. We just want our society to go in a direction that's better for everybody. You know, we want goofy things like clean water and clean air, all kinds of really radical ideas.
Healthy people.
Yeah. I think it's ironic because you're also seeing this with the COVID vaccine mandates. Like in cities where you have to have a vaccine passport to go into a restaurant, like we saw with the Burger King incident. I find it so ironic how people are threatening to sue and throwing these little hissy fits and tantrums about the vaccines and people getting laid off, you know, over. And I hearken back always to the Colorado bakery case where this baker said it's a private business and it's my religious liberties if I don't want to bake a cake for two gay guys. And he ended up winning. He ended up winning the case. And the Supreme Court said he can not bake a cake for a gay couple if he wants to. And then now I see businesses refusing vax holes and mask holes that won't wear masks, that won't get vaccinated. I just saw it today. I just had it unfold in front of me at Chipotle here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they're throwing all these fits talking about, you know, public. Now they're also, these businesses are now public businesses, and that they have the right to have access to burritos and burgers and all that, and they don't have to get vaccinated. It's against their United Nations rights, which all of a sudden they have United Nations. And I'm going, you guys have been bad mouthing the United Nations since it opened. And now all of a sudden the globalist policy, but all of a sudden when they need something, all of a sudden businesses are all public businesses, and I could walk in and I'm the public and you got to serve me. And businesses are now countersuing and using the Colorado Baker case as the case to say, I can pick and choose my customers based on health, like especially on health and human services, where they're like a restaurant's their guests' health and safety is first and foremost. And if you're coming in raw dog and air inside the middle of a restaurant, spitting COVID and Ebola and whatever else contagion these dirty vax holes have, and they're going, well, we don't have to serve you. We don't want to endanger our employees.
Yeah.
And so, but they're using the case precedent of something that the conservative dude, the state of Colorado, on several years ago on that bakery deal. And it's just so funny, to your point, is what goes around comes around. Careful what you ask for. It might bite you in the ass in different ways.
And it usually does. And it usually does. Because remember, we talked about this about a year ago when COVID was really kind of starting and stuff. And we talked about, remember all those really hateful AIDS legislation they were passing about you could be prosecuted and sent to prison if you gave, if you unknowingly gave someone HIV. Yeah. And so I think they should use the same type of legal precedent. If someone I work with refused to get vaccinated, and that's probably why businesses are requiring vaccinations, because they're afraid that I don't want to, I knowingly there is actually something that could get someone sick, and all it's going to take, anyone can sue anybody. But if it takes 5 or 6 people in the business to sue, it starts to add up. And I think that I think that's really what they have to do with the schools, these loudmouth parents that are so, my little Johnny doesn't need to wear a mask. He can't think. You know what? Let little Johnny come in and let the parents sue their parents. And
and I think again, the Republicans pulled this in Texas with the abortion thing.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's one of the best things that ever happened, because what's going to happen is other states like California is just in the process of passing this, which is that you can now sue gun manufacturers and gun dealers when a gun's used in a violent crime. And so what's going to happen is that everything that they think they can create, dominance, white supremacy, racism and sexism and all that, misogyny, always seems to backfire, because we use those exact same laws, rules, case studies, that always comes around, because how they broke the back of segregationists back in the 1960s is they used interstate commerce laws, obscure commerce laws, to sue states into breaking segregation, because they said any business that discriminates, that also does interstate commerce, the federal government can intervene with. And those originally, a lot of those interstate commerce laws were created to segregate and to jump in and keep northern states from pushing around southern states. But just ironically, so many of these laws, some of these case precedents end up changing the rules, changing the deal for good, because they probably were a good idea. They were just applied to the wrong thing, like the Colorado Baker deal. I do agree that businesses probably shouldn't be forced to do anything, but at the same time, you've got to balance the safety of your employees and the safety of your patrons as well. So,
well, I know we've talked about this a lot on the Coffee and Producer Show, but I think that we know, we've kind of talked about this off the record, and it's kind of been the theme of why I'm not afraid of a culture war.
Right.
They may originally think of things that we think, oh, they're great at messaging, they're great at suing, they're great at this. We always end up winning. Oh yeah. Because we have been, when you're marginalized, you have no choice but to say, how do I use the rules that have been given to me, because that's the only way I can do it, and use it against the other person. And we usually end up outwitting them. And which is one of the reasons you should never get into a fight with a black drag queen.
That's correct.
Because you can never outwit or outfight a black or not. I'm just saying black district, a drag queen of color, a Latina in San Antonio.
Oh yeah, dude. That's a bad decision. It's a good time to go home before you do that. Like, it's a bad. I've seen some Latinx.
Oh my gosh.
Drag queens.
Take
care of some unruly patrons.
Yes.
And if they don't get you kicked out,
Yes.
they'll actually do worse. They'll let you stay, but they will so shred you verbally.
Exactly.
You'll wish you'd left. They'll make a fool out of you.
But don't you think, hey, Jenny, don't you think that's one of the rules? I mean, I know that being marginalized, we all have struggles that we've had to overcome.
Sure.
But there's certain survival skills that it teaches you that can be valuable to you, especially as times start to change, that other people don't have those. Like I would never, I'm smart enough to know to step back. Some people don't have that, and
well,
like, oh no,
white conservatives have this arrogance.
Yes.
And to bring this full circle, you see now a Crenshaw cracking back on a Green. They're both in the same party. You're seeing Cheney taking on Trump, and these people that have kind of been fairly quiet lately and all that are in the Republican Party are going, I need to say something. I don't want to be, when we look back in history, I think there's going to be some Republicans that are going to step forward and say, enough is enough. That if we don't want to lose our party, and I really do think there should be a movement towards dissolving the Republican Party. I do think it needs to be dissolved. Honestly, I think that
just seems like a very, very extreme. I know that's not really. That's probably no. I think you do mean that, but I do think that when we say things like that I think that it comes across as just really extreme. You know what I mean? And I think if it comes across as too.
I'll leave you with this. Watergate, Iran-Contra, 9/11 wars for profit, killed 1.3 million people of color, and Trump. Tell me an organization that has caused more Americans money, time, and their lives than any other party or any other organization. Republicans have killed more Americans by their incompetence and their sheer evil than any terrorist group or any foreign military in the last 50 years. Think about how Reagan purposely ignored the AIDS pandemic.
Yeah.
Look at how Trump botched the reaction to COVID. Think about the over 1 million people in countries that did not attack us, die for absolutely no reason other than Cheney's cronies making billions of dollars upon billions of dollars. That us Americans, like we talk about, the Republicans are talking about the deficit right now and those trillions of dollars. Well, Jim Psaki said, Republicans have been spending like drunken sailors on shore leave for 50 flipping years on mass incarceration, endless wars, nuclear weapon schemes.
But Jenny, they don't. But they don't see themselves as it's.
But people are starting.
They don't see it that way. They see them as they are the ones protected. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying.
But the bottom line is, at some point in time, that one organization, and since Nixon in 1969 till now, the last half century, there hasn't been one good Republican president from Nixon on that hasn't done war crimes, killed Americans, killed foreign nationals on purpose to further their agenda. And they have had a horrific history the last 50 years. And at some point, we have to say it. We have to say it like it is. It's not. I'm not even saying. I'm not saying this is Democrat.
No, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I don't disagree with what you're saying. Yeah.
But the totality of their evil and the amount of death and suffering that's happened because of the Republican Party. At some point, we have to step back and say, as an entity, it's unsavable. in I know it's a lot, but the conversation should happen. There should be a discussion in legal sessions, and I think there should be a class action lawsuit suing the Republican Party for all these charges, with the ask that it's dissolved as an entity and it's dissolved as a $1 billion enterprise and banned to exist. And it is doable. It is doable, and it should be in discussion. You can't kill as many people as the Republican Party has and spent trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars irresponsibly with all kinds of tremendous amounts of lies. Just what Reagan did alone, and Reagan Bush did in those 12 years. At some point, there should be an accountable discussion. Say, this kind of politics has to end in America for us to go forward.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I just don't see how that could ever be feasible when we know that so many of them, there's absolutely no way that I'm not worried about the Republicans. Democrats would never allow that to happen because they don't want to risk that being said about Democrats. Does that make sense?
But it can't. Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Well, they can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. Yeah.
But everything I just said is provable. Everything I said is public record. Everything, all these schemes that they've pulled, and it's been a ton of schemes. The Star Wars scheme. Yeah. How much money did we dump into that? How many trillions of dollars did we dump into Reagan's crazy nuclear weapons buildup and just scared the hell out of us about communists when Russia was collapsing like a cheap tin? And we all knew it. We all knew it. We knew the Soviet Union was going away. We had intel, tons of intel. We knew.
But Jenny, here's the most important point to what you said. If we dissolve the Republican Party, how will gay bars in DC exist?
Well, they may have to find a new gay home somewhere else.
How will Tender exist? How
Grinder? Well,
they would go
I
out
think
of
Grinder
business.
will live on. And I do think other political parties would fill in the void.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
But I think the Republican Party, and this is nothing new, they act like Trump is the one that's caused all this, but this kind of evils existed in this party for since Nixon was the starter of a lot of this.
So maybe what will happen, and maybe it will kind of to your theory, the only people who can beat a Republican are the Republicans currently. So maybe the only people that can destroy the Republican Party are other Republicans. So maybe what's going to happen is Liz Cheney's, Matthew Ridenhour's, Cal Kirby's will start another party because they can't control this party anymore, and the Republican Party will just be like the Whigs used to be. And so maybe that's what you're saying. I don't think Democrats can do it ourselves, but I do think Republicans can do it. And then people like Barbara.
I think the only way you can dissolve the Republican Party is twofold. I think the people, and Chris, we have to hold those Matthew Ridenhours to talk a big game. And Kyle Kirby talks a big game.
Yeah.
But until they do something, and don't try to do it's a both sides thing.
Yeah.
And try to compare a Madison Cawthorn to a Jeff Jackson. Is completely baseless. Jeff Jackson's a lot of things.
Well,
but let's be very clear. There is nobody in the Democratic Party that behaves like Madison Cawthorn, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Bobbert, and so on and so forth. So it's just ridiculous. But we do need to wrap up so we can keep to our 30-minute process. And I'm sure next week we can talk about this more.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying, Jenny, because I think we understand the damage, especially if you can't have grown up in a marginalized community and not know the damage the Republican Party, especially the Christian evangelical branch of that party, the damage they have done to people, the lives that they have taken, the people that have killed themselves, families that have been destroyed because of rhetoric of Republicans who say they're conservative, but really they just really And so you can't. There is. So I understand that part, and I agree with you, because you can't have survived the AIDS crisis and ever forget
what Republicans did,
what they did to us. I agree with you, and the shame that they brought to so many people.
I think the first step is the trials with the Republican terrorist attack on the Capitol. Jenny-Jaymes attack. I think that's step one.
Sure.
Hopefully step two is Congress, holding members of Congress that were involved with that accountable, people in the media accountable, whoever was involved with it, former President Trump accountable. I hope we see all that play out the way it should, which is jail time and loss of ability to run in the political system anymore with felonies and stuff like that. And I think most importantly, if we see that, I think that will open up the door to seeing civil suits and class action suits against the Republican Party for so many other heinous things, and holding them accountable for gun violence. Like, you want to keep protecting lawlessness with guns, things of that nature. Start suing the Republican Party. Start charging them $1 million fees for everybody that dies of gun violence. And one of two things will happen. We'll either sue them out of existence and obliterate their ability to sustain, and
which is what they did, which is what they've done to the Proud Boys. They've lost so many big class actions or suits. They lost the big Virginia one that they basically bankrupt them. And I agree with you. I think you have to use that strategy. I agree. All right, we agree with something.
Yes, we'll overtake them one lawsuit at a time.
That's
but anyway, thanks for listening, guys, and tuning in to Two Queers in a Truck. And hopefully we'll see you next week.
Where's the music?
Right at the other. And we got a little bit.
All right.
A little bit of Queen music right here.
Bye, y'all. See you
Happy
next
New Year,
week.
Queens.
Happy New Year.